Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Homeowners insurance increasing or deductible too high? Call, click, or come in. Save a Dave. Dave Miette Insurance Agency.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We are live from our Potstrain Production Studios and a beautiful day here in New Orleans. And of course, Christmas right around the corner. This is actually our last live show of the year. We'll have a couple of rebroadcasts over the next 2 weeks as we take a little bit of a Christmas break. But to break it down for us tonight, talking everything about the home teams, none other than Mike Detillier of WWL Radio. Mike, welcome to the show. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and your family.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you. Man, it's a typical Louisiana winter. 80 degrees outside.
I'm telling you. You know, it just can't get a... And it looks like, again, not just here, but really throughout most of the South, that, again, we're not going to see any type of really cold winter here or cold
Christmas
season. Not winter, but
it's crazy because on my timeline last week it snowed. Remember we had that snow a few years back, and man, I got a whole bunch of pictures of my little granddaughter who at that time was 4 years old, and you know, she thought all of this would happen every year. You know, you don't understand that, you know, for us, we grew up here. That happens every once in a while down here. But yeah, it's typical. Beautiful day today, but it's 80 degrees.
No doubt about it. Some really good news down on the bayou with again, Thibodeau Regional opening up the cancer center.
Yeah, Eric, it was something to see. You know, all of our lives have been touched by cancer in some way. It doesn't matter where. No matter who you touched by it. And this was the vision of Greg Stock, the CEO of Thibodeau Regional Medical Center, along with the board members, to build this new 80,000 square foot cancer institute in Thibodeau.
Yes.
And they had the grand opening last Thursday, beautiful facilities. And I think, you know, with cancer, we've come such a long way.
Yes.
I've told this story before, and I'll keep it real short. My mom had colon cancer back in 1965. Okay. Advanced. They gave her about a 15% chance to survive. My mom passed away last year.
Right.
So, you know, because of the doctors, the treatment, and her faith, she was able to last that period of time, which was a long time.
Yes.
And figure, you know, she was 89 years old when she passed away. So she had a good life. And my dad had prostate cancer. And so the advances we've made in all these cancers, and yet sometimes we see it, Eric, it's so fast, and somebody has zero chance to survive it.
Of course.
So instead of having to go to Houston, and for some people, man, I don't want to get in my car and go to New Orleans. Right. You know, you have it now in Thibodeau, beautiful facilities, great doctor care there, and it gives people with cancer some hope.
Yes.
And anytime you open something like that, Eric, I think it does provide the opportunity for a breakthrough.
Right.
Somewhere.
Sure.
Somehow. And something that could happen there, just like it could at MD Anderson or at Ochsner or at East Jefferson.
Absolutely.
It doesn't really matter. It gives you that opportunity. So for that to happen on the Bayou, and you figure all the changes economically of what's happened in the oil field and the changes there. We've went through a number of storms. We're in that cycle now of getting those storms, and we've sort of been in the bullseye the last couple of 3 years. And being able to overcome that and different changes business-wise, Thibodeau Regional to build that facility there, and it's paid for.
Right. Paid for.
It's paid for.
That's beautiful.
And so that was great. Great ceremonies there. And again, what Greg and the whole crew there at Thibodeau Regional Medical Center have done to provide this facility for people in Lafourche, Terrebonne, Assumption. St. Charles is so close to drive there. And for a lot of people, New Orleans, it's almost like you talking about going to California to them, you know. There's still people a certain age, you get it into that deal. So it's a fantastic facility, and to see it is unbelievable, to have that built there. And they were the only hospital after Ida for 2 weeks that ran. Right. Figure every other hospital was wiped out in that area, and they were doing, I guess, emergency type stuff there if something happened. But for full hospital, for the first 2 weeks after Ida, that was only one standing. Right. And that was Thibodeau Regional Medical Center. And again, Greg Stock's done a fantastic job.
Congratulations to him, you. I know you've been involved with this for a long, long time, intricately involved in everything that's going on over there, including being a spokesperson. And it's just, look, it's great for the quality of life of people living on the Bayou.
Yeah, and it's because sometimes we don't help that quality of life, you know? What we eat and what we drink, and maybe sometimes isn't the best for it, but it does give great facilities, and along with the Wellness Center, which is right next door, and they will have a second phase of it, which is going to be gorgeous, and hopefully they'll be finished up with that during the summer. Man, it's you think about all the economic things that have changed.
It's an economic driver.
That really right now the medical industry is really driving the train. Again, I do think that there is some hope on the offshore business. Not so much the drilling, but the wind. And natural gas. You can see where, if you don't think this is happening, then you so far behind the curve, you have no idea what's going on. Those jobs of 20, 25 years ago are not coming back. And no matter who's running the show, you know, we in that wind and natural gas and blue hydrogen part of what's also hitting in that area along in the river parishes.
No doubt about it. And of course, good news for a place that has really been battered over the last few years.
Taking a few hits.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Taking a few hits.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd like to say congratulations to the Saints, but it was only a 39 win over a bad team. But 6-7 now. Just your overall thoughts on the season as we are right now. Obviously, injuries have been a big reason why they are where they are. But again, look, you can't discount what happened in the offseason, where again a COVID-reduced salary cap really dug really deep into the quality depth of this team.
Yeah, it was all chips in for 3 years, and you didn't win the big enchilada. That's what you had shoved all those chips in for. And you knew this would be a reboot year. You never counted on this many injuries. And the roster was going to be much thinner. We talked about it all summer. That was going to be the difference. It was going to be the depth. It's not when, it's not if you're going to have injuries, it's when it's going to happen.
You need to be a little lucky, and they haven't been lucky this year at all.
Listen, Joe Clark, who lived next door to me for quite a number of years, passed away during the summer. 50 years as a coach, major college football in the NFL, would always tell me, people would ask him, Joe, who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? He said, tell me the lineup in December and I can tell you.
There you go. True though, right?
And it is absolutely true, because he's been through it before so many different times coaching in the NFL. And I do think it makes a difference. You know, me and Abear argue all the time about this next man up. That's great to tell the fans, and they got rah-rah, tis, boom, bah type people in the media. Okay, it's great to give them that, but it's not reality. That's not another Alvin Kamara on this team. There's very few of them in the NFL. When you lose a Ramczyk and an Armstead, you see the big difference. When Eric McCoy was missed at center, how much he's missed. And also, too, while Jameis maybe wasn't lighting the world afire throwing the ball, I'd much rather have him than what I have now at quarterback.
No
Come on. And so, but you were shorthanded from the start. I think that the big loss certainly was Michael Thomas, because you were hoping somewhere along the line he could come back in and help you.
Right.
This has got to be the worst receiving corps in the National Football League. That's not even a debate anymore.
Mike, we've been around a long time, and I don't know. I mean, we've seen Saints football since day one, and this is as bad as it's been in terms of the wide receiver position.
The wide receiver position
in the history of the organization.
My thing about it is, I get the free agency part of not going out and get a veteran guy who's going to cost you money. But my thing is, the last 3 years, these drafts have been overloaded at wide receiver,
right.
and you have disregarded it for the most part, other than a 7th-round pick this year.
That's it.
So you have sowed the fields here. You know, you kind of done the crop in on what was going to happen, and it didn't turn out right. I think even today, if you put Sean on the lie detector machine, he would tell you, miscalculation of my receiving
There's
corps.
no doubt about it.
And, you know, then you got Deontay, who has turned into a pretty good player, really a return man, and a guy that can stretch the field. Now, he's suspended. So, and he's been injured also.
Right.
Eric, the receiving corps is not very good, and it's got to be redone next year. But if you don't fix the quarterback position, you are stuck in neutral.
Right.
And don't tell me about a college quarterback.
No, it's not
that's not going to happen.
It's not happening this year for sure, right?
It's not happening in 2022.
Right.
And my thing is, look at Sean's history with young quarterbacks. Okay, when he had Tony Romo, it was 3 years before Romo got to play.
Right.
My thing is, Ian Book, okay, we've seen all these quarterbacks go down. Ian, he's been inactive.
Right.
So that tells you his thought process on that has stayed the same.
Yes.
I think he really believes that you got to have to go out and get one next year. And there's going to be a couple veteran quarterbacks out there.
Right.
The blueprint is set. The Matt Stafford deal from Detroit to the Rams sets you a blueprint of what you would have to give up for a Russell Wilson type player. Or if not, then you go to Vegas, Eric Carr. Go get Carr. And see what happens there. Because they're going to reboot in Las Vegas also. And I think it's just a bad marriage now in Seattle between Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson.
You think Carroll lasts? Do you think he's back next year?
That's a good question. Because of his age, you wonder. And had it been Paul Allen running the show, I would say yes. But it's his sister now. And who is she listening to? Because she has admitted, I don't know anything about football.
Right.
You know, I'm taking advice from others. It's interesting because he's had such a great career. It goes to show you sometimes the train can go off the track and yet you can get it back on. He failed twice as an NFL head coach. He goes to USC, where I think he was the 5th or 6th choice for the Trojans. And he built them into a dynasty. He had that run that was unbelievable with USC. And he goes, Seattle has a nice run there. Couple Super Bowls, wins one, should have won the second, you know, but I think, and he looks young. You would not believe, you know, at his age that he's still coaching. Got a lot of excitement, but I think, Eric, it comes a time for everyone where you're not quite as good. And look who he's got surrounding himself now. That doesn't look good in Seattle, really doesn't. So I'm saying it's no more than 50-50. He returned. For 2022, because with Paul Allen not in charge, and Paul was his biggest promoter, now you have opened up the door that, you know, system might be listening to somebody that says, you got to bring in another guy.
New voice, maybe so. I did want to ask you this, because I brought this up on my radio show. When you look at Ian Book and you compare him and contrast him with the quarterbacks coming out this year, is he better than the ones coming out this year? Are there players that are coming out this year that are better than Ian Book at this point? And I ask that again because if the Saints are in the market for a quarterback, are they willing to be able to trade up if they have to get one of those quarterbacks that are going to be on the board in the first round? Or again, if you compare and contrast Book to those quarterbacks, if they're not getting anything better, at least have Book and still go for that veteran.
That was my opinion. Here's my deal. Where are you going to pick? All this foolishness of these projections of a Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral, you can throw it out. Isn't history telling you quarterbacks go earlier? I don't care what your ratings grade is on them. They go quicker than what they have been rated.
I agree.
Big men is going to dominate the 2022 draft class. But what does basically 14 teams in the NFL need? A quarterback.
Everybody, right.
Either you got one or you're looking for one. So don't give me this hee-haw stuff. Now, it's great if you want to click. Oh, Kenny Pickett, he's the guy. I'm going to interview him when he comes to the Senior Bowl. Okay, you'll have him great, and he'll be with somebody else. Oh, when Matt Corral comes to the Sugar Bowl, I'll get to talk to him. He's going to be a future Saints quarterback. Click on my thing, and I'm going to explain to you why. Okay, do your history work. The top 2 quarterbacks in these draft class, even though they're not rated as high as the guys of a year ago, they're still going to get picked real high. It's supply and demand.
But you don't want to be one of those teams that are chasing a quarterback year after year after year.
That's why go get you one that's got credentials.
Right.
And, okay, if I were looking for...
And then if you're grooming in book, groom him.
And groom me in book for it. Okay, I don't know what more can people not get about that, okay? You know, Sean's not shown any history of using a first-round pick on a quarterback or a second-round pick on a quarterback until he picked Ian. You know, that wasn't the case. So what all of a sudden changes the dynamics there? I think if the move has to be made, go get you a veteran quarterback this offseason, a guy that's been in the game, understands it, and look at the teams now that are in the hunt. They all got one. They're not looking for one. They have one.
What do you think about Jameis and the ability for him to come back and compete here in New Orleans? I don't think the market's going to be huge for him at this point.
I think it's no market.
So, again, I think he comes back, and at that point he competes. The question is, if you're giving up a treasure trove of draft picks to go get a Russell Wilson, then at that point, where is Jameis sitting? Is he looking at it going, wait a minute, best I can do is probably maybe a backup here or compete.
Okay, and I'm not doing it, but if I would be his agent, my thing is, okay, we got to get you healthy. And that's a serious injury.
Absolutely.
Still today with a knee injury. That's a serious injury that he's got to go through. So teams are going to be leery because it's about availability.
I agree.
And how much time will you be spending working with our receivers in the offseason? I think the market is going to be small for Jameis in the offseason. If I'm his agent, hey, let's get yourself back to 100% or as close to it as we can this year. And this might sound morbid, but it's going to happen. A quarterback's going to go down.
There's no doubt.
To an injury. And we're going to be sitting in that position to make our football chess move. So, you know, a lot of people, he's going to sign right away back with the Saints. I'm not real sure about that.
Not if the Saints go out and get another veteran quarterback, I don't believe.
And you would know that. I think you would have a feel about that.
You're going to know that before the draft.
And you, I think, know that before veteran free agency starts.
For sure.
So I do see the Saints being aggressive in that market for a veteran quarterback. And then you can redo your wide receiver position. Not necessarily all through veteran free, even though I'd like to bring in a veteran.
Don't you think they have to?
I think you got to bring in one. This stuff about dealing Michael Thomas, here's my catch with that.
The dead money crushes you first.
And what are you going to get for him? That's not even looking at the salary cap issue.
You got $61 million in dead money right now before you start the season.
And so, Eric, my thing is, let's get Mike back healthy. I can, let's have a powwow, so to speak. Let's settle the differences with us, if there is any, so to speak. Let's settle this. And it ends. Okay? It's like an argument. You want to keep arguing and arguing and arguing with someone, and it never ends. There got to be a point where you say, okay, enough's enough. Let's stop all this argument, or you said this and I said this, and maybe we misinterpreted one another. Let's settle down, let's settle this. You're a big part of our team. We want you back. We're going to do everything we can to help you get back to 100% because we need you. Okay? Where's the next Michael Thomas? Okay?
Not on this roster.
No, it's not on this roster. And if you got one, why would I give him to you? So My thing is, Michael Thomas is more valuable to you than he is to any other team, not only for what he can do on the field, what he can cost you if you try to get rid of him.
Right, there's no doubt.
Come on, this isn't like running a radio or a television station, or you working somewhere in a warehouse. Okay, I can get rid of you, and it doesn't cost me anything. No, when you make that commitment to a big-time contract,
Yes.
it's not just for today, it's for tomorrow and every other year, part of that. So my thing is, I want him back. I want him back because he's talented. He gives me that big guy downfield that can move the chains, and he can open up stuff for somebody else.
Yes.
And you seeing that's not a number 2 receiver on this team, much less a number 1.
No.
And so I can help fill that with one veteran player at the receiver position, and then I draft me a couple of receivers.
Right. And then again, a guy like Callaway, maybe again, he's better now because he's had a year under his belt playing. So that helps you. Harris is going to be better because he's had a year playing. So we'll see how that plays out when you get to your 3rd and 4th option. But yes, Michael Thomas, you need a veteran, and you need to definitely draft a receiver. And look, I'm with you. I've been saying the same thing. 3 years, just guys that were local in terms of the wide receiver position that you let walk to other teams. That again, you could have picked 1 in 3 years, 2 in 3 years, and you didn't do it. And again, that's the issue you have right now.
And so now you can look in the mirror and say, hey, look, we've all made bad decisions.
Of course.
All of us have.
Right.
In life, in business,
Ruiz Patrick Queen,
yeah.
Come on.
And that one was still, I'm sort of shocked about that. But whatever. You make decisions and you got to live with it. But you know what? Don't dwell on it. Move on.
You can.
And fill the roster with better players. Give your quarterback, whoever it is, if it's a veteran you bring in, if it's Jameis Winston, we know it's not going to be Taysom. So whoever's there, give him an opportunity to make some plays downfield with receivers that can get open. And then when they get open, can they catch it? These 50-50 balls they throw up, Eric, it's not 50-50.
It's 70-30 for the other team.
Well, it's almost 80-20 at this point in time. The other thing, too, is if you watch Taysom today, how many passes does he throw past 10, 12 yards downfield?
And again, doesn't throw players open as well.
That was the thing, we got spoiled with Drew. He would throw them open. And for even Drew Brees haters today, and I got a couple of them that I'm pals with.
How are they today?
They're not quite the hate.
Yeah.
Man, I got a lot of respect for Drew what he did, and you understand it that. There were games where maybe Drew didn't play his best when the spotlight really was hot. Come playoff time.
When you needed it, playoff time.
And normally that's when you would want that. But man, to see Drew did it, and he almost did it with ease, and yet you knew it wasn't with ease.
No.
His precision, his timing, his accuracy skills, that is all about hard work and determination and understanding this game at a level that, Eric, I'll be honest with you, I don't know in our lifetime we're going to see another one like him.
Not here.
Not here.
Not here. Well, and then the cerebral part of that as well. Again, understanding what the defense is doing, realizing that within a split second of, again, who's going to be where and who's going to, what they're going to do on a certain play. Calling out the defense, which now is being done by the offensive line. So many things that he did for this team that was overlooked by so many that, again, that you realize now when you don't have him, the dearth of experience that's not there anymore.
And, you got to have a little luck with it. For the most part, Drew was healthy.
Yes.
Up until the end.
Which I think is one of the reasons why he went exited stage left.
I agree because, your body's sort of telling you, I can't do it anymore.
Brady's still doing it, but he's not getting hurt.
And Brady, man, and when something's going to really happen to him and he won't be there, that autopsy is going to be mighty interesting. That's all I can tell you.
$6 million man?
Man, it's unbelievable with that. And you think about, look, I go back to the Colts, and to have Peyton Manning get hurt, and then you end up with the first pick in the draft, and you get I thought he was a generational player, Andrew Luck, and then he gets hurt. And look how they've been scrambling since.
Well, that's what I was talking about. If you don't have one, you're chasing one always.
Constantly.
And you don't want to be in that situation. Look at Cleveland for years and years and years.
And they're still chasing.
Still chasing. You don't want to do that. And I don't think Peyton wants to do that as well.
No, I
Peyton
think
understands that.
I agree with you. I think he has a full understanding. Let me go out and get that veteran quarterback.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's going to cost us. And we're going to have to make some critical cuts of players that have been productive on this team to make it work.
Plus, you're going to, or guys you may have to trade
off in part of that deal. But you got to do what you got to do, because I agree with you. Either you got one or you're looking for one, and right now they do not have one. And I said this on your show 2 years ago, last year, summer. The future starting quarterback long-term for the Saints, he ain't on this roster today.
No, he's not. Let's talk about the game on Sunday night. Tampa Saints. Saints have won the last 6 regular season games. They pretty much own Tampa, with the exception of, again, the playoff game. Troutman has been designated to return from IR now. They're getting a little bit healthier. Hopefully, again, some guys coming back off the COVID-19 list. The main one is Kamara is back, and Taysom is at least playing through his injuries. When you look at this game on Sunday night, your thoughts?
Well, your difficulties certainly are throwing the football downfield.
No doubt.
And that is the weakness of the Bucs. Can you take advantage of it? At this point, I've seen nothing to make me think it's going to happen. So now you strength against strength. You want to run the ball, and they want to stop it.
Right.
Their defense is really good against the run. Now, you did see a little crack in the armor because Josh Allen rushed for over 100 yards against them. But Buffalo's running game, to me, that's why I think they may be a 1 and out come playoff time. They don't run the ball well, other than Josh. To be honest with you, you're going to have to get a little bit of help. You're going to have to get the turnovers, and that means putting pressure on Brady.
That's the only way you can beat Tampa Bay.
At this point, that's the only way. And my matchup situation to watch is what happens here. Because Marshawn Lattimore has been great against Mike Evans.
Yes.
He's really done a fantastic job. How are you going to manufacture coverage on Chris Godwin? Over the last 2 games, he's caught 24 passes. So he's taken Antonio Brown's spot as that's the guy I want to go for in certain down and distance situation. So Paulson Adebo is going to need some help.
Right. And oh, by the way, Gronk is healthy.
Yeah, and you know,
and look, Fournette has proven he can catch the ball now. What, he got 62?
He's got over 60 receptions
right.
this year.
You know, and he's running. You know, that was a steal. Okay, and you knew when Jacksonville let him go and he ended up there that he was going to flourish, and he has. He's the back that everybody thought he was going to be right now.
You know, he looks a lot like the guy I saw at LSU.
Me too. Oh, yeah.
He does look like that.
Absolutely.
You know, you talk about Gronk. If you watch the play in which he makes the long run against the Bills, who threw that key block? It was Gronk.
Right. He's always been an underrated blocker.
I say this all the time, and I tell people, in all my years living and scouting,
right,
it's the best tight end I've ever seen. They've had receivers that are faster, receivers that can maybe catch the ball a tad better, but he's a good receiver. How many guys can block like him?
Yeah.
You talk about a 6'5", 255-pound guy, and he is underrated for moving people off the mark. Everybody talks about his antics, but man, let me tell you, you get him on the field,
He's all business.
I can take care of that other stuff away from the field. He's going to be a first ballot NFL Hall of Famer. And in my opinion, he's the best tight end I've ever seen to do everything. Yeah. You know, you think about 3rd down and 6.
Get to the 2nd, 3rd
Man,
level.
Brady's like, yeah, I got it. I know exactly where I'm going.
And they have
Red
this
zone.
synergy between them as well that you get when you've been playing together that long. There's a trust factor of knowing where that guy's going to be when you're releasing the football.
And the other thing, too, is if it's Patriots backs and now Bucks backs, man, make sure Gronk is where, you know, if we got to run a play, I want to run it on that strong side where he's at. But, you know, he's just a fantastic player also. You're going to have to one-on-one a little bit with Gronk. Yeah. And you're going to have to be physical with him. But I think the key matchup is what happens with Godwin. And you're going to have to give him some help over the top. But bottom line is this. If the Saints cannot run the football, they got zero chance in this game. Zero.
And the problem with it is, again, and we see this, Kamara is such a dynamic back. There's not many linebacking cores in the NFL that can handle Kamara, but the Tampa Bay linebacking core can. Devin White is athletic. You look across the board, they're fast, and that's an issue because they can take a guy like White and put him on Kamara, and he can hang with him where most linebackers can't.
And you think about they got Shaquille Barrett and Levante David.
Come on.
It's
an embarrassment of riches.
It's an all-star team, and they're all chips in worked. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Sure.
Last year, they're all chips in worked.
They got a little bit lucky.
And you got lucky injury-wise.
That's what I'm saying.
Other than Vita Vea, who came back late, and you saw the big man when he made a difference.
Right.
Okay, well, he don't have a ton of sacks. He don't need to. He's occupying 3 guys in the middle.
Right.
That's
his job.
The other guys are coming in. It's like a swarm of bees around them. So, but they are weak in the secondary.
Yes.
And boy, you can see it. They're vulnerable there. I just don't know if the Saints can take advantage of that with not being able to press the envelope downfield, throwing the football.
Right.
Now, Trevor did.
Right.
Okay, now they were helped in that game against Tampa Bay. And when you saw Brady walk on that field with 1 minute and 30 seconds left, you was like, oh, I've seen this rerun before.
Right.
Here we go. And, and PJ comes up with the pick.
pressure.
But it was all about getting pressure on him.
Right.
And it worked. Now, can you do it again? Can you take away his launch pad, his ability to step up? Because that's what he wants to do.
Doesn't want anybody near his legs.
I don't want anybody too close to me.
Exactly.
And so, can you do that? And also, not only Kamara running the ball, Taysom has to be big in this game, running the ball. And the Bucs showed that they had some issues last week with Josh Allen. But when Josh turned the corner, you saw him chasing, but Josh had a step on him. And, man, Taysom can run the football well. Again, though, you got to be able to hit on some passes.
Well, he cannot sit in the pocket, not against this team. There's no way in the world. Okay? I mean, he's got to get out on the edge. He started to do it more last week. That's the recipe for success for the Saints. A heavy dose of Kamara, and hope you get something out of that pass-catching core, something.
And not turn the ball over.
There's no doubt.
I think that
and create
a turnover somewhere along the line. And last week you won special teams. And man, Gillikin's been great as a punter. And Aesop Winston steps in as a return man.
There's a drop off, but not much right now.
But man, he looked awfully good. And at least Mayer, he kicked it. It's like thank you. It's like thank you, Lord, thank you.
No doubt.
When he went in.
Right.
And so, but everything's got to be right. Boy, the Bucs, they're taking the enamel off that team. Man, we don't want to hear none of this no more.
Right.
And that it shocked me because I thought it would be 10. It jumped to an 11.5.
I was going to ask you that because some are saying that's the largest point spread in the history of the Peyton era.
That's it. Man, and
do you think that is a motivational factor for this team?
Man, I know I would tell them that, man, they disrespecting you.
Exactly.
What do we have to do to get our respect against this team? The other thing, Eric, is, and I can't explain it, and I wish I could, is why some teams match up better against others and players change, coaches change, and yet you match up really well. And it's unusual that how well the Saints have matched up so well against the Bucs, and yet, man, if they had to play the Eagles twice a year, you would say, what's going on? They can't play the RPO system well, and Jalen Hurts has been terrific. And then the next week, he's terrible.
Right.
So it is funny how sports has a way of equalizing things, but sometimes you match up better against others, and you can't discount the fact that this team has measured up to the Bucs very well, and you helped them during the playoffs too. You helped them.
You turned the ball over.
turnovers.
I mean, that was the difference in the game. There's no doubt about it. Mike, before we go to the next segment and talk about LSU, Saints make the playoffs?
No.
They don't make the playoffs?
No, I think the key game is this. I think all of us would agree.
Right.
It would be an upset if they beat the Bucs.
Right.
A big-time upset.
Right. Some people say you go 3-1, you make the playoffs. I worry about tiebreakers.
Yes, because of the fact the NFC teams you've lost.
Right, you lost to Carolina, Atlanta, and also to the Giants and Philly.
And so that puts you behind the 8 ball.
And the Atlanta, Carolina, and Giants when you were healthy.
Right.
Which is
you shake it. At the end of the year, you're going to say, how in the world did you lose to the Giants? But I think, and I've told this on the radio station a number of times, I think the key game is Miami. Because that is a team that has been hot.
True.
They played good defense.
Right.
Tua has at least turned the corner a tad. And Jalen Waddle's played great. Now, he's in COVID spot 2. Right. If he plays or not remains to be seen. But that is a team that can put up points, but they play really good defense. And so I think that's the key game. Because even if you lose to Tampa, you got to sweep the rest.
Right, you got to.
You have to. And that Miami game on the Monday night may be a difficult chore, much more maybe so than we thought early in the season. Say, man, that's a W against them.
Right.
It's how you playing that time of year.
I don't know if you can chalk a W up against anybody right now, considering they're
No.
There's no doubt. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio, Sports Talk, each and every weekday from 4 to 8. 4 to...
Well, I don't work 4 to 8. I work 4 to 6 or 4 to 7.
4 to 6 or 4 to 7. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come right back, hear from our underwriters. We'll go jump into some LSU. A lot to talk about with the Tigers. We'll touch on Tulane. If we have time, we'll touch on the Pels. All that coming up here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Stay tuned.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Mike Detillier, again, co-host of Sports Talk on WWL Radio, is our guest today. Mike, before I jump into it, I have to ask you about your draft guide. Obviously, you're putting it together now. When can we start to expect? Right around April?
Yeah, it'll be in that neighborhood, as usual.
As usual. Oh, yeah, beautiful. All right, LSU finished season 6-6. They're going to the Texas Bowl against Kansas State. That's January 4th in Houston. They finished 3-5 within the SEC. Early signing period started yesterday. We'll get into that. The big news today is that Miles Brennan is returning to LSU. He's taking his name out of the transfer portal. He's returning to LSU for his 6th year. So again, he will compete for the starting position. Also, Mike Detillier told us this morning, Miles Frazier, the tackle, is a tackle, right? Out of FIU, is signing with the Tigers as well, adding to the class that they've already put in the stable now. First of all, your reaction to Miles Brennan coming back?
It's a bit of a surprise. He had come on with us a couple weeks back. Did not sound like LSU was in the mix. We had heard from a couple different people last week. And Southern Miss putting a full court press on him. Indiana, who is now heavily recruiting this area, along with Nebraska because of Mickey Joseph, was in the mix also. And then he gets a phone call this Monday from Brian Kelly. So, Eric, you would understand this. He becomes Sean Connery. Never say never.
Right, of course.
Never say never. And things change so rapidly. And I had a coach text me this. This is like you are dating someone and you say, it's not going to work between us. Man, we kind of argue a little bit, this and that. Maybe we ought to look for somebody else. Then after a few weeks, man, you know what? It wasn't so bad.
Right.
It wasn't so bad on this issue. And so I wouldn't have given it a big chance for him to return, though I had kept hearing that there were people at LSU that wanted him to think about it. Come back here.
Right.
Come back and return to LSU. So I'm thrilled for Miles. I just hope he's healthy.
Yes.
Because I do know one thing. He has an NFL arm. He can spin it flat out. Now, he's got to stay healthy. So that's good news, but that's a Brian Kelly W.
Yes, I agree. And if you're Miles Brennan, why wouldn't you come back? I mean, if the head coach reaches out to you and says, look, it's wide open competition, come back. You love LSU. You've graduated from LSU. You want to be in a situation. Why go to a new place where you don't know everything that's going on? Why not come back? I think it's a great move there.
Eric, I think the other one is maybe a wink, wink, nod, nod.
That maybe you got the best shot.
You the guy.
Right.
You my guy. Come on, play yourself out of the starter position. But you my guy. Listen, coaches lie. I hate that.
Oh, come on.
To tell that to people. Yeah, come on. I got them in my family.
Right.
I got them that are friends of mine. They sometimes don't tell you the truth. But I really believe that they had that conversation of, hey, look, I know you looked around. And there were reports late last week that he was on the verge of signing somewhere else.
Right. No, there's no doubt.
And Brian making that call Monday. And that's why, and I say this all the time about recruiting or free agency. You never, ever say never.
Right.
Because you don't know. There have been guys, people said, there's no way Sean's bringing back Mark Ingram.
Right.
And what did he do? He brought back Mark Ingram. We've seen it with different players that, you have that relationship with. I think he would have loved to have gotten Jimmy Graham back.
Oh, I do too.
If the finances would have been right. Because it would have been the fit. So I get it, and I think it's maybe the best decision Miles could have made.
I agree with that as well.
And also to now getting the other Miles.
Yes, which is huge.
Frazier.
Because the offensive, and that's what they concentrated on this signing period on. Big men.
Yeah, no question about it. And Brian was successful there.
Yes, and I think that's going to be his calling card going forward.
Well, that's his wheelhouse.
Right.
I went back and looked at this. Over the last 8 drafts, he's had 4 first-round pick offensive linemen, 3 seconds. So in 8 years, he's had 7 premium picks in the NFL draft. Tight ends is another spot.
Okay.
He's had 5 drafted and 2 signed as undrafted free agents. 8 years, 7 players going to the NFL. Okay, he doesn't have any other spot like that at Notre Dame.
Right.
But that was his wheelhouse. Offensive line and tight end. I never forget Nick, when they played him a year ago in that Final Four series, Nick was like, man, we coming up with all these schemes, it's nickel, it's dime, everything else. Notre Dame comes out and they got a 3 tight end set. And he said, man, I told Golding, we better get out of nickel and dime real quick.
Real quick.
They're playing 3 tight ends. Come on, we got to jump out of that. It goes to show you he is who he is. He'll adjust to the talent level here. That's no question. But I think his wheelhouse is always going to be up front, offensive line, and having the tight end much more involved in the offense than we saw with Coach O, who tried to change it.
He did.
And to a certain extent
did it when Burrow was here.
Did it with Burrow and Thaddeus Moss.
Sure.
In that one season, Thaddeus was terrific.
Yes, he was.
I think he thought he had it with Arik Gidwood, and then Arik, has his issues.
Right.
And then he's got a flex one in Besh.
Right.
Who's not quite a receiver and not quite the tight end, but he can fill that.
But I think he goes to wide receiver next year, don't you? Because I would think that
I think because
Kelly
of the
wants wants a bigger tight end.
I think because of the numbers at wide receiver, doesn't have a lot of big men at receiver.
Right. He's a tweener.
Yeah, and so, so I think he's not done at tight end.
Right.
He's not done at center. That's the big concern for me. Okay, tell me the guy that's on this team today that's your starting center for 2022. Now, Marlon Martinez, I saw a little bit of work there, but is that the guy you want to start?
I think we're going to see him revamping this offensive line.
I think one of the things he's going to do is, I'm going to grab me a center who transfer portal or a grad transfer and bridge the gap for 2022, and then let's see what happens with Martinez after that.
Or again, as we're speaking now, he has inroads into every high school in the country because Notre Dame recruited nationally. He's a guy that, again, has done very well in recruiting big men. We have the athletes in Louisiana. We need the big men to complement that along the offensive defensive lines. That's been his forte everywhere he's been.
And the other thing, too, is I give him a lot of credit. And I spoke to Ed about this year one for him, and he was like, hey, T-boy, I don't know how we're going to hold up year one recruiting. Because the relationships you build, you bring in new coaches.
That's right.
They knew that assistant coach. They knew Coach Miles. They knew Ed a little bit. But, okay, now how do you bridge that? And Ed did a good job in year one. Now, year two, that was a shoo-shoo year. But it happens sometimes. And one of the reasons probably why he's not there, that class was not real good. Now, the others were. The next three, they were all top 5 recruiting classes. But I look back, Brian, this could have fallen apart easily for Kelly. Okay, with Walker Howard, one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Will Campbell, one of the top tackles in the country. Emory Jones, wherever you project him, if it's right tackle or inside at guard, he could have went anywhere he wanted. And yet he was able to keep those guys. But to me, the big catch was Quincy Wiggins. Because I've been told Quincy may have been leaning out of state. Okay? And he's a guy that grew up in Houma and then went to Baton Rouge with a family situation, went there. And man, he's the longest wingspan guy I've ever sort of measured. I think it's like 82.5 inches wingspan as a teenager. If you see him on, he takes a picture and his hands are down, get almost like touch his knees. I mean, he is a big-time talent. He's very also close to Mason Smith, who went to Terrebonne High School and was a freshman.
He did a pretty good job last year.
And he's going to be quite a player, too. So those two guys, you can see, are going to be the cornerstone of what Brian built. But you got some size along the defensive line. The problem is offensive line, where I thought you were overmatched at times. And you can't count on freshmen to come in and all of a sudden you my starters. Eric, that's not going to work. So you may have to have one, but you can't get into numbers there. So that's why I think bringing in Miles Fraser, who was a freshman All-American, and has started at that left tackle position, is crucial for LSU. But I think there's another trump card to be thrown down, and I think that's at center.
Mike, early signing period right now, they're number 18 in 24/7 sports, 13 signed of the max of 25. They got 7 they could bring through the transfer portal, but it's a different world now in college football. Total different world with NIL and the competition between programs on what a player can get. And we saw that yesterday again with the #1 player in the nation going to Jackson State and shunning Florida State. Also, again, the transfer portal now with the ability for players. They feel like, again, they're not right where they need to be in the depth chart. They don't like the coach. Something happens, they jump into the transfer portal. It's a whole different landscape of college athletics, especially we're seeing that now with college football.
Yeah, it's totally different from how we grew up, our dads, grandpas, but we better get used to it.
Better get used to it.
Because it's not going to change. It's not going back at all.
Eli Ricks signs with Alabama yesterday. You got Max Johnson and his brother now signing with A&M. I mean, at one time you could say you could protect yourself from players going to within the conference because they have to sit out a year or two. There is no such thing anymore. You could be playing against the guy you played with last year, next year.
Yeah. We grew up in the 70s and we saw Kentucky, and Frank Kersey was there. Well, he had name, image, likeness long before it was legal. No, we knew all this was going on.
All this has been going on behind the scenes.
It's been going on forever. You just didn't know about it, okay? If you heard about it, it was maybe a whisper here and there. My thing is, if you drive into the parking lot when these players pull in and you take a look at the cars, vehicles, okay, this ain't like you driving a 1974 Nova. No. Come on, you understand what you're involved with here. That this is long going on, but now it's extended and the genie's out of the bottle.
True.
And where does this sort of peak at? Because I think there's always been people, oh man, we such a poor state, Really?
No.
They went and get $17 million to pay off Coach O. They spent all this money on Brian Kelly. And the misperception is that, oh, that's my taxpayer money. No, it ain't your taxpayer money paying for none of that.
That's some million and billionaires dollars.
And it's all Louisiana money or people that went to LSU and Arata State. They have the right to spend their money wherever you want.
Of course they do.
Okay? Now, I hate to say this like my mom. You know, her deal is, oh, y'all do it, y'all want my money once I'm dead. But they got people, but that's old school thinking.
It is.
Okay, and we all know people like that in our lives. They have people today, no, I want to see where my money's going while I'm alive. So I'm going to give it to LSU, or I'm going to give it to offensive linemen.
Plus, it gives them access.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And also to a little power.
Of course.
That they like.
Yes.
And so with the coach, with the coaching staff, with players, that sort of thing. So, yeah, listen, I'm not a hater on people making money.
Come on, make as much as you can.
My thing is, if I was in that spot, I'd love to do it, but I'm not hating it because I can't do it or my kids couldn't do it.
Right.
But you got people that hate
And you wouldn't mind if your kid was getting it either.
No, I wouldn't mind at all.
1.3 to 3 million, this kid that's going to Jackson State, come on.
That's pretty good. But my thing about it is, you do have haters in this world that anytime an 18, 19, 20-year-old young man or young woman's making money, well, now how come that's not me? Well, because you're not talented. God didn't make everybody equal.
Exactly.
And so you got to understand that. And if a young man can make it, I say, God bless you. First thing I would tell him to do, make sure you got a good accountant. Because you know what? Come February, March, Uncle Sam, he ain't unforgiven.
No, he's not.
You know, his deal is, hey, I know you're making that money.
Right.
You got to pay me.
Right. Well, the college kids have to figure that out. But the guys that are giving them money, they're getting the tax write-off. So that on that case,
bingo.
Okay.
And so
where they were giving them money before and all there was the $100 handshakes, now again they're writing it off on their taxes.
So my thing about it is, and we got so much feedback on this about, man, I can't believe LSU's breaking up this great coaching staff. They got all these great assistants. My thing about it is, and listen, I'm pals with Corey Raymond.
Right.
I've known him for a long time. Did you think that secondary played well the last couple years?
No. He was there for his recruiting prowess.
He was a tremendous recruiter. I thought he had a great relationship with his players. I thought that
there's
was
no doubt about that.
Even better than the recruiting part with Corey. He could relate to a young player.
And you need that now with, again, the transfer portal.
You better have it. But look how they played. Minimal mistakes, breakdowns. When you're supposed to catch, what happened there? Same thing at the running back position. And I feel the same way about Kevin.
Right.
Did any of those running backs, now Tyron Davis-Price at times flashed it. But since Clyde's off to the NFL, and part of it has to do with the offensive line was El Stinko.
Again, another guy you look at for recruiting. Same thing with Mickey Joseph. I mean, these are guys.
And Mickey,
right.
The same sort of way. So you got to be able to balance it.
Right.
But Brian Kelly owes no one anything.
I agree.
I don't owe you as a talk show guy.
You got to give him an opportunity to bring his guys in.
And give him a fair chance.
Right.
So as a talk show guy, I don't owe you anything.
No.
As you an LSU an alumni, okay, great. You got your say. And you can write whatever you want on Twitter and Facebook. I could care less.
Right.
I'm going to do it my way. And if you don't like it, I think his deal is, hey, they didn't bring me here because everything was fixed. They brought me here because it was broken.
Well, of course. And then the other part, at least smart enough to go out and get a guy like Frank Wilson.
Well,
if you don't lose a Corey Raymond, if you don't lose a Mickey Joseph and a Kevin Falk, you brought in the Godfather.
This was years ago. I was talking to Wayne Reese, and he always, Coach, let me tell you something, Coach. He said, best recruiter. He said, yeah, I know your boy is pretty good, Coach O. He ain't better than Frank Wilson. Frank Wilson, best recruiter, he said, I have ever seen to recruit high school athletes to college. He said, Mike, he said, the very best coaches. I'm telling you. He said, Coach O's good.
He's a closer.
But he said, man, Frank Wilson's unbelievable in what he can do. And I think bringing in Frank, who knows the area, man, we go back a long way. Frank was a running back, defensive back at Nicholls State. And his first job was at Nicholls State. So I can remember way back then when he was in the college ranks as a player.
Right.
But, man, his inroads of Louisiana, East Texas, and the fact that he was the head coach at UT San Antonio gives him another big area out in West Texas.
That's right. There's no doubt. It was a great move on their part. Switch to Tulane real quick. 2-10 in the season, 1-7 in the American. Rebuilding time for Willie Fritz. Got so far a top 76 class. 13 high school players were in this class so far, but he got 4 transfers. 3 of those transfers are former New Orleans high school standouts. So again, bringing in guys that maybe didn't work out in another university, Colorado, Notre Dame, and I believe it's another one. And then, of course, he's going to be big in the transfer portal as well. He lost Chip Long as his offensive coordinator. No word on that's going to be. But Michael Pratt comes back. Tajay Spears comes back. This is a big recruiting class for him to be able to rebuild this program.
Offensive line was a huge disappointment last year.
I agree.
He thought it was the strength of his team. He had told me, hey, listen, Mike, I think we're too deep. We're going to be pretty good. They were El Stinko last year. They didn't play well at all.
True.
And their receiving core, man, it's like a talent there. Come on, because none of those guys could make plays for you. And Pratt's trying to do something, but, man, you run around enough, you're going to get rocked in this business.
Right.
And he got rocked. And I think some of that took a little bit of his confidence away. And I think he fought the injuries. But when your offensive line's shaky and you got a receiving core that doesn't have those big-time players playing in a conference where you better score over 30 points a game every week, you have some difficulties. I thought the defense played better down the stretch than early. I thought they looked confused early on, but I thought they played better down the stretch. But losing some of those games late.
Right.
Oh,
well,
man,
and again, you can't be throwing bouquets at the schedule maker. Even though you made that schedule a long time before Willie Fritz got there, when you're playing 4 teams in the top 25, 2 that were ranked twice,
you can't
number
match
2.
up.
There's no way. You don't have the athletes to match up.
No, you don't have it at this stage. And again, you got to win up front, and I thought they could do that this year. What they had returning, and they had depth.
Yes.
And it didn't work. Their offensive line play was not good. And then you watch their receivers from play to play. One time they open, the next time they break off a route halfway. They run a 10-yard route, they run it 12 yards, or they run it 8. My thing is, come on. There's something wrong here. And so everybody, Michael Pratt isn't playing well. Well, come on, the receiver got to run the right route.
Exactly right.
On that deal. So it is a major reload for Willie Fritz this year.
And he's on the way. Looks like this class could be a pretty good class. Getting those 4 transfers in are going to help as well. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. Mike, one more time, tell the folks about the radio show, how folks can get in contact with you as well on social media.
Yeah, at Mike Detillier on Twitter, on Facebook, kind of the same gig. And I'm 4 to 6 or 4 to 7, Monday through Thursday. And, me and Abear, we babysit one another. Yeah. So, but we have a good time. And man, how about them Pelicans? What a great shot.
Yeah, wasn't that incredible last night?
To end it. Somebody says, man, you know what that reminds me of? Tom Dempsey's 63-yard field goal. I said, well, I hope it don't turn out the same way. The Saints didn't win another game after Dempsey's field goal.
But that was great last night.
But that was a great watch. And my thing was, oh, no. Yeah. They're going to lose this game overtime. And then it was like, oh, my goodness.
It was something else, no doubt. And next time we get you in, we'll talk more about the Pels. And, of course, Zion. I hope we'll know more about that as we go forward.
That's not good.
No, it's not good at all. Thanks so much for tuning in. And first of all, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to each and every one of you viewers out there. Thank you so much for again, tuning into our program each and every week. This is our last live show for the year. So again, thank you very much. But I'd like to thank again all those that work here at WLE. And of course, don't forget, plenty of ways to catch our program. Again, there's a rebroadcast tonight at 6 o'clock on LAE, 10 o'clock on WLAE-2, 9 o'clock on Pelican Sports Television on Friday, 10 o'clock on LAE on Friday night, Saturday at 2 a.m. on The Deuce, Saturday afternoon at 5 p.m. on Pelican Sports Television. Always at ericasher.com, always on the WLAE-TV YouTube page, and always on our social media platforms. At Eric_Asher on Twitter, Eric Asher on Facebook, and Inside New Orleans Show on Instagram. Again, you catch me on the radio 4 to 6 weekdays, 106.1 FM, iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, and of course our podcast is everywhere. Anchor's our home base. Just search Inside New Orleans Show with Eric Asher. Again, special thanks to Mike Detillier for joining us. Again, always love to have Mike on the program. Also, to the WLE production staff, which does a great job putting this program on each and every week. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Will Ingram, Alex Chacon, my director, William Hill, and then a special thank you to the sponsors that sponsor our program. Underwriters will underwrite this program and do that year-round for us. There is no show without those underwriters. Please support our underwriters going forward. But we thank them as well. Mike, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to your family. And again, to the audience out there, thank you so much for tuning in the program. We'll have another great year coming up in 2022. For Mike Detillier, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you next year, New Orleans.